Hello everyone. I'm Mrs. Rekha, Assistant Professor of English from Government First Grade College, Kavur, Mangalore. The novel Nampally Road by Meena Alexander is prescribed for BBE Sem 4 of Mangalore University with a text titled Compulsory Foundation Course in English. The today's session 35 is on the characterization of the novel. The characters are dealt in detail. Character Siddharth. Siddharth was a friend of Meera. They became friends in England. Siddharth was a few years older than Meera. They met each other during a protest march organized by the students against Margaret Thatcher. The government of Mrs. Thatcher had stopped giving free milk to young school children. Due to this, the students of university they started a strong agitation against this decision where Siddharth and Meera also actively took part. Siddharth was an expert in reading the Sarod. He even gave concerts in England. During his concerts, a white girl called Vanessa fell in love with him. They moved together ever since that day. When Meera received a teaching job in Hyderabad, she directly went to Siddharth. As Siddharth couldn't go to India and he had not been to India for a long time because of his research in mathematics and it was in a confused state. So he asked Meera to visit his mother in Hyderabad when she reaches India. He even drew her a map of Nampally Road and gave a very detailed directions to Meera, but didn't mention anything about plane route, trains, or bus routes. After all, who needed that stuff? He concentrated on the footpaths. Meera spent a few hours with Siddharth and his girlfriend Vanessa before leaving for India. Both Siddharth and Vanessa served Meera a fine dinner made up of rabbit casserole and table wine. Siddharth had a very close connection with the Swami, the localite of the place. He used to visit them very often, and later it was told that both were caught by police because of the smuggle they did. Siddharth was very happy that Meera is going to visit his mother. Coming to the character of a very major character, Dr. Durgabai Gokhale, who is called as Little Mother throughout the novel. Durgabai Gokhale was the mother of Siddharth. When Meera came to India, Siddharth asked her to meet his mother, who lived in Hyderabad. When Meera visited Durgabai, Durgabai insisted Meera to stay with her. Meera accepted this offer and started living in her Nampally Road mansion as a paying guest. Meera always addressed Durgabai as Little Mother. Durgabai was a doctor by profession. She was an obstetrician, gynecologist, and pediatrician all rolled into one. She gave vaccinations and medicines to young children. She also attended to the special health problems faced by the women folk. She also attended the job of delivering babies. Rarely she even helped unmarried girls to get an abortion. Durgabai had very little facilities in her clinic. A single bed, that to a metal bed for the patients, an old wash basin, and a few medical equipments. But her clinic was a great comfort for the poor people since she didn't charge any fee for them. The Nampally Road area in Hyderabad was inhabited by extremely poor people. She considered her profession as a very noble profession and served the poorest of the poor and who came to her with compassion. All her students have grown into sprawling doctors drawing profitable salaries. She considered it as a mere farce. Durgabai's father was also a doctor. He built their house on the Nampally Road some 70 years ago. He was a doctor in Nizam's palace and he rose to the rank of chief court physician. In the wake of impending problems of the Indian nation in the making, struck by the most basic yet lethal calamities like poverty, the bicycle man does an exceptional service to the society by adopting the boys. More information about Durgabai is spilled by her friend Swamichari, who described a fierce and individualistic Durga fighting with her mother to marry the man she loved. One evening, when the house was hovering in silence, Durgabai opened the baggage of her memories, narrating the death of her husband washed away from a tempestuous ship. She was still kept the spectacles he wore safely. Now coming to a minor character, Rani Amma, who is called as Rani. Rani was the fat servant of Durgabai. She served Durgabai for the last 25 years, ever since Durgabai got her from an orphanage. Rani's favorite pastime was watching Telugu movies. As she had very little work in the doctor's house, she used to see films on a daily basis. The Saga Talkies on the Nampally Road was adjacent to their house, and Rani enjoyed one matinee every day. She worshipped Telugu stars like Akbar, Mumu, and Jahangir. Rani was also interested in visiting the Swamichari of the neighboring ashram. According to Rani, the speech of the Swamiji was so good that it raised her to the sky like a flying swan. Rani's closest friend was a Christian lady called Laura Ribaldo, who lived in the next house. She was promised by Laura Ribaldo that she would take her to Canada. They had a very intimate relationship with each other. The next character, Laura Ribaldo. Laura Ribaldo was the nearest neighbor of Dr. Durgabai. Laura's three sisters were in Canada and she also wanted to go there. Her husband Henry was a cruel man who used to beat her every day. Laura found consolation in her friendship with Rani Amma, who was the servant of the doctor. Both of them enjoyed their regular visits to Sagar Takis, the next door cinema house. Both of them had a taste in synthetic clothing and soft drinks. Even to the places of worship, they moved together in spite of belonging to two different religions. Rani accompanied Laura to the Catholic Church and Laura joined Rani when she visited the ashram of Swamichari. Laura made regular correspondence with her sisters in Canada. They wrote to her about beautiful shopping malls and palatial buildings in Canada. Why even the vestibules there are covered in plastic, she told Rani. This was quite unbelievable to Rani because plastic was treated like a precious thing in Hyderabad. They washed and dried old plastic bags so as to use them again and again. Laura was an extremely thin woman, and when she walked with Rani, it looked quite singular because the latter was very fat. Laura used to wear black lace during her visits to the church and the ashram. The major character of the novel, where the novel goes around with this character, Ramizabe. Ramizabe was a little woman who lived in a mountain village near Hyderabad. She came to the city with her husband. They went to see the celebrated Hisakata at Sagartakis. When the film finished, it was late at night. They started walking back to the house of some relatives in the town. Suddenly, a group of drunken policemen attacked them. Ramizabe was raped by the policeman, and her husband was violently attacked and beaten to death. Later, his body was recovered from a well by his own brother, who was a lorry driver in Hyderabad. Ramiza became extremely ill because of the gang rape. There was a rumor in Hyderabad that Ramizabe was hidden inside the police station so as to hush up the whole story of murder and rape. One day, Ramu walked into the Gauliguda police station and inquired about her. The police became nervous and angry and shouted Ramu to get out of the police station. Very soon, the police got agitated and organized in small groups. They marched into the Gauliguda police station and attacked it. It was a gracious building built in the British style with stone steps. Everything, every wall of the police station was whitewashed. People found Ramiza imprisoned in one of the cells. She was seen lying on the floor. Meera touched her forehead through the iron bars. The cell was broken in and Ramiza was taken to the house of Maitreyamma. The agitators have brought numerous bottles filled with kerosene and lit the fire to the police station. Within a few minutes, ever-ready men arrived to the spot, even the reserve police. The rioters have already dispersed. Few who remained at the spot throwing stones were arrested and taken away. Very soon, the news of the riot spread all over the city. The government tried to control the issue with all their might. Students played an active part in this revolutionary movement. The law and order was so bad that the normal evening shows of the Saga Takis were cancelled. Curfew was imposed for several days and it was removed only after the situation came under control. Once the city returned to normal, the birthday celebration of the chief minister started. Limka Gowda arrived for the celebration with a procession of horsemen and elephants. Trumpets and horns were played when he entered the venue of the pageant. Limka Gowda's birth childhood and youth were depicted on the stage in a very highly dramatic manner. The stage was meant to be the appearance of film stars singing songs in praise of the chief minister. A huge cardboard model of the ancient inner city of Hyderabad was displayed on the stage. Everything was highlighted, especially in a red light. Suddenly, there was a cracking sound from the top of the cardboard city. A sheet of flame appeared, and soon fire began to light the entire stage. There was immediate confusion, and people began to run all over. There was a big sound of explosion inside the cardboard city. Thousands of wires, bulbs, and cardboard pieces began to scatter all around the place. People began to run in wild haste. There were men, women, society matrons, soldiers, sailors, peasants, street children, etc. Within a few minutes, the whole birthday celebration, organized with the effort of several months, collapsed. Meera ran fast and escaped to the lotus pool behind the public gardens. To her great surprise, was the water in the pool was found burning. A fire had been lit in the water. Meera remembered the ancient saying of Nagarjuna that if a fire is lit in water, no one can extinguish it. It was clear that the people of Hyderabad had taken revenge for the rape of Ramisa and the murder of her husband by destroying the chief minister's ambitious birthday celebration. But more riot was to follow soon. When Meera finally reached home, Durgabai was found with some bandage in her hand. She mentioned to Meera that Ramu inquired for her. These words gave great relief to Meera because it showed that Ramu was still alive in spite of organizing all the dangerous anti-government activities in the underground. Another delight awaited Meera at the gate of Durgabai's house. It was Ramizabe who had recovered from her serious illness. Meera rushed to her and touched her hand. At that moment, she felt that it was some hope left for the poor people of Hyderabad. Now, coming to the character Meera Kannadikal, the young protagonist of the novel of Meena Alexander. Meera was born in India a few years after the national independence, and she didn't agree to her mother's decision for an arranged marriage for her. She went to England as an undergraduate student and spent several years there. Life in England was a torture to Meera because she couldn't adjust with the fast lifestyle of the European people. The strain of being lonely and dislocated makes her move to her motherland. In her anguish and solitude, she decides to return to India where she hopes she would be free from her anxiety. Her return to native is to discover herself among the Indian masses and social flow. Throwing away the luxurious and lavish life in an advanced nation, Meera Kannadikal prefers the life in peripheries in India, a nation that denies her the basic human rights due to emergency. She gets a teaching job at the Golden Threshold in Hyderabad. Siddharth, her friend in England, directs Meera to his home near Abbots, where his mother, Dr. Durgabai Gokhale, a gynecologist, lives alone in an old house close to the Golden Threshold with her help. Meera is invited to stay with her, and Meera even accepts her invitation, and she falls in love with a Marxist colleague, Ramu. The situation in the state is rather delicate with an authoritarian chief minister, Limca Gowda, and his band of Muslim who are named ever-ready men. The government imposes all kinds of taxes and the common man is suffering. The law of the land is oppressive. Meera, meanwhile, is making love to her Marxist friend Ramu, wondering poetically about the doctor, her woman servant, her neighbor, her students at college, where somewhere in the background the gang rape by the policeman happens. The people are agitated, the police station attacked, the woman rescued and visited by the rather foggy headed Meera. At the same time, the chief minister's birthday celebration are on and revolutionaries set fire to the capital city. In this way, Ramiza is avenged. One more character, the main character of the novel, Limca Gowda. Limca Gowda was the chief minister of Andhra Pradesh. He was a totalitarian ruler and suppressed the opposition parties cruelly. He became the chief minister after winning the election by spreading false stories about the former chief minister, Mr. NGR. Limca Gowda ruled the state with the help of a specially created secret group called the Ever Ready Men. The Ever Ready Men wore khaki uniforms and each one was provided with a motorcycle. The policies of Limca Gowda was very harmful for the poor people of the state. He imposed a heavy taxes on oranges and the poor orange sellers found it hard to survive. So they organized themselves under the banner of orange sellers of Telugu Desam and staged a protest march against the chief minister. Within a few minutes, the ever-ready men arrived on motorcycles and started attacking the procession. The policemen started beating the orange sellers with lathis, dragged and kicked them. Very soon the whole procession was scattered and dispersed. The life of the poor was extremely pathetic under the rule of Limca Gowda. The villages were neglected and even basic health facilities were not provided to most of them. Injustice was spread in Hyderabad. There was no drinking water, no schools, and not even a good road in the villages of Andhra Pradesh. The chief minister was only interested in strengthening his rule. He made preparations for conducting an elaborate celebration of his own birthday so as to increase his popularity. Limca Gowda wanted to achieve the popularity of NGR, who was his rival and a former chief minister. Limca Gowda was a corrupt politician. In the name of his son-in-law, he started a company manufacturing soda water. He produced lime-colored soda under the trade name Limca Soda. The water used for making this cool drink was neither filtered nor purified. Once, hundreds of Hyderabadis who consumed this soda during a wedding celebration were hospitalized because of abdominal pain and violent vomiting. But the chief minister only tried to support his company by getting photographed publicly with a bottle of limca soda in his hand. He went on drinking it bottle after bottle. The soda became a fashionable thing in Hyderabad, and people continued to drink it even when the price was raised considerably. Injustice was not limited to Hyderabad, and the whole country was in a spell of dictatorship because the Prime Minister in New Delhi was the iron fisted lady who had declared a national emergency just for the purpose of suppressing her political enemies. The poor people of Andhra Pradesh became desperate, but they could not do anything against the chief minister publicly, as all the opposition was cruelly suppressed under the police forces. So they organized secret and underground organizations to work against Lemka Gowda. Ramu and Meera became part of it. During his birthday celebration, peasants were called from distant places to support and shout in support of Lemka Gowda as their great leader. The cargo city was erected to imitate the birthplace of him. The arrangement was done like paradise. A small child was selected from the working class to play the role of Krishna. When the story of his birth was being enacted on the stage, a fire incident occurs and spoils the whole celebration. The victims of his rule took revenge by spoiling his birthday celebration. This act brings an optimistic view of transformation for goodness. One more major character of the novel is Ramu. Ramu, the friend and love of Meera, also represents a mobile subject who visits multiple locations. His love for the homeland is evident as he discards the prestigious Rhodes Scholarship and prefers a modest grant from Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi for his PhD program. Ramu was born in Kerala, stays in Hyderabad for his job as a teacher at Sona Nivas College, Hyderabad, and for his PhD program studies in Delhi and rejects superstitions, including what he refers to as horoscope rubbish. He has a strong patriotic feeling for the people who suffer at the hands of the autocratic rulers in independent India. Here, Ramu shows the impact of his grandfather, who had been an associate of Gandhi during the freedom fighting movement. During emergency, he takes part in protests and reacts vehemently against the unjust rule and decisions of the government. In doing so, he experiences imprisonment also for several times. Through his readings of Karl Marx and Habermas, he protests against the unjust rule of Lemka Gowda. Emergency turns the democratic leaders into dictators. The political leaders took the stance of autocrats and exploited the commons. In Hyderabad, the chief minister of Andhra Pradesh, Lemka Gowda, behaves as the Nizam, the dictator and ruler of Hyderabad, instead of his parental role as the representative and caretaker of the people. Ramu always wanted to make a difference, to do something for India, whatever that something might be. After Meera had met Ramu, her love for poetry and love for literature began to decline. Ramu was rebellious by nature. He shaped her to fight for the downtrodden people. At the beginning, she was very much interested in writing poetry. When she was disturbed or pleased by something, she began to write poems and showed her reaction through her writing. Gradually, she lost interest in writing poems. Ramu had told her not to waste her time by writing poems. He persuaded her to think practically, and finally, he had succeeded in his attempt to take her on his side. Ramu and Maitreyi went to become a part of fully fledged revolution. This was the meticulous planning of the revolutionaries. Ramu, Maitreyamma, Rosamma, Kabaddi Master, and countless others with the target to ruin the birthday celebration of Limca Gowda. This fire seemed to have healed the wounds of Ramiza and other victims of Limca Gowda. With this, we come to the end of the characterization, the major and minor characters in the novel. If you would like to have further reading, you can refer the text and other reference materials. Thank you, one and all. Have a good day.